Hello, everybody. Everybody's in. Okay. Thank you guys for taking your time to join me for this. I am Shomi Patwary, director and producer, and I co-founded a company called Elusive Media, which is my production company. I'll be starting the presentation now. So, to give you a better idea of what we do, this is our website, our current website, and we're a full service production company. Our clients include Adidas, Snapple, Facebook, Google, and that's on the commercial end. But we started out doing music videos, and we still do music videos, but our main bread and butter is commercials. But it took me a while to sort of understand how to make that transition, and I think hopefully I can help today with what we'll go over today. And so, when we started out with Pusha T, ASAP Rocky, ASAP Ferg, the whole ASAP mob. Those are the guys that we sort of experimented our projects with, and we got to make some really, really cool visuals with them. So here's some of the work on the music video side of things, some of our clients. So these are all the music videos that I've done over the years. More recently, I was directing a TV show called Deezus and Miro. And so you'll see that in our TV and documentary section. But let's get started. So today's topics, we're going to go over the process of creating a commercial from concept to completion, tips for working with clients and managing budgets and schedules, the role of post-production, music, sound design, and creating an effective commercial, and then the future of filmmaking and how it's evolving with new technology and platforms. Excuse me if it gets wordy. This business is not as glamorous as everybody thinks. In order to actually make a living off of this, it comes with all this, the process, which is in a commercial involves developing the treatment, casting, location scouting, shooting. And it depends on what kind of director you are. So like I'm a producer / director who owns a production company. And I think more and more trends are going towards that way where agencies will hire out smaller production companies like us to get the work done. And so what I'll help you guys with today is like kind of get an understanding of how to run a production company as a director and producer. You kind of have to wear many hats. And so the first thing that happens is that if a client is interested, especially an agency, they'll usually send you a creative brief. And I'll give you an example of a creative brief. This is one that I had gotten from Sony when we had to do the Wu-Tang Clan 36 Chambers documentary for the 25-year anniversary. And one of the things about getting these creative briefs, it could be overwhelming because sometimes their presentation is really well done. And then you have to bid and you have to pitch as well. And it can be very detailed like this one. So then you're kind of stuck like, okay, well, then how do I have my creative vision come through, in the midst of all this? So it's important that you still have a unique perspective and you're showcasing why you're like uniquely deserving of the gig, I guess. And so this is something that came from Sony before we even bid and won the bid. We won the bid. And so that's an example of what a creative brief is. And so after you get the creative brief, that obviously shows that there's interest, but getting the creative brief means that you and maybe 100 other directors are also getting that creative brief. So you have to come through with a proper treatment. A treatment should include a clear and concise message, as well as a compelling story or hook that'll engage the audience. The treatment may include details about characters, locations, and elements of a commercial. So in the beginning, I didn't even know what a treatment was. I used to just sort of email somebody that I'd be interested in working with and just send them a sentence or a paragraph or just like an entire essay of what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, like these ideas are so cool. Why am I not landing these gigs? And this is before commercials. This is when I was just doing music videos. What I started understanding is a treatment, an effective one, is very visual. So I'll show you how I got started on music video treatments. This is an example for a Kid Cudi one that I bid on. So this is one which I incorporated animated GIFs. One of the things you want to do when you're putting a treatment together is you want to stand out visually. So what I like to do with my treatments is I like to create animated GIFs for my references. And I don't usually make mines too wordy. So, and I use, nowadays, I use Google Slides. It's free. Anybody you can have access to it with the Google account. So I use Google Slides to do these. And so with a music video treatment, I go very heavy on just the images. Later on, I'll get you guys an idea of how we kind of pull from references, but a lot of the times I'll look at other music videos I'm inspired by. And so we'll pull stills, we'll pull animated GIFs. And the cool thing about Adobe Slide is that, I mean, not Adobe, sorry, Google Slide is that it lets you drag animated images. And I think it's the best way to really, really get your idea across. Some things are just hard to verbalize, like this effect that you're seeing that's on Kid Cudi. That's like a very hard effect to like explain just with text. And with all treatments, I usually have a page that has a link to my demo reel, which is currently hosted on Vimeo. Things I've done in the past, a brief bio, and a thank you with, right now I have a rep. So my rep's contact information is there, and they usually will get back and let me know what's going on. So that's how a music video treatment is. Commercials get a lot more detailed. I'll show you 2 examples of a commercial treatment. And really a treatment is super, super important to really, like I said, sell the idea. This one was for a startup sneaker company. And we did this commercial for Devontae Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. But again, I looked at other works that I really thought, represented my ideas. And so I just dropped them in. I don't know how many of you guys are using animated images, but for me, I think it's the best way to get my ideas across. And so this one is really, really, it was like a quick 40 or 60-second spot. So I didn't go too much into detail. And you don't always have to go too much into detail. Sometimes it's just like the idea of just getting that visual right and aesthetic. You'll see a lot of the colors and effects are very similar. This one has a really glitchy theme to it. And so that's one example. And then, sorry, got too ahead. This one is for the New York Knicks. Now, this is much, much in the bigger leagues. You're looking at like the $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 projects. And that's what this was. So on this, I'm kind of breaking down the schedule already, even though I didn't really get awarded yet. I kind of broke down the schedule just to let them know how I plan on executing this. There are photos of locations, the cast, all this is broken down. Examples of how detailed I want to get with the close-ups, macro lens shots like this macro shot of the rope. And again, everybody has a different way of doing these. This is just how I do my treatments, so this is what works for me. We won this bid. Again, you don't have to follow this. This is what works for me. So for me, the treatment's the fun part. The scariest part is the budgeting and the bidding. One of the mistakes I used to make when I was budgeting on the commercial world, which is different from the music video world. In the music video world, they tend to be much more demanding, the client. So you tend to overbid and over budget. So I used to over budget in the music video world. So I got so used to that when I wanted to get commercials awarded, I used to underbid, I used to under budget. And I was like, I thought I gave him a good rate. Why didn't I get the gig? But actually under budgeting sometimes shows them that one, maybe you don't know what all this stuff costs. Two, once that contract is placed, it's more work to ask for an overage. An overage is, when you go over the budget, and that can happen in many ways, whether you under budgeted in casting or locations, anything can happen. So it's good to have a properly padded budget. Here's an example. These are made up numbers. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal, but they're close. This is a bid that I created for the New York Knicks. Very detailed. And again, I'm not going to go over every single line item because we don't have enough time for all that. But just to give you an idea, this is estimated at $243,000. I am telling them what deliverables they'll be receiving. So just a cost summary, but super important. And this is the software you want to use. If you're doing a music video, it's fine to use Google Sheets. It's cool. But when you're dealing with bigger clients, I even made the mistake one time. Like, first time I got a big client, they were like, you sent us a budget, but this is not what it should look like. This is not the format. Do you have hot budget? I was like, what's hot budget? And then, I reached out to another producer buddy of mine, is like, dude, you got to use hot budget. And, you purchase the license. It works with Excel, but this is the industry standard. Almost everybody's going to be looking for you to submit your budget on this. And what's cool about hot budget is it calculates your workers' comp and how much you're going to be spending in payroll. And so what I'm telling you is not the most glamorous stuff. The glamorous stuff is once the work comes out and you get to show off, but you're not going to get the gig if you don't know how to use hot budget. It's not hard to use, plenty of tutorials online, but that is the tool if you want to get the bigger clients, Adidas, Facebook, Google, all those types of clients. If you want to win those clients, this is the tool to use. And then even more boring stuff, but you gotta have it done. I use Rapbook for workers' comp. The cool thing about Rapbook is when you're budgeting your stuff out, if you want to know what workers' comp is going to be, you go to your resources section over there. And in the resources, there's a payroll estimator. Let's say you're in California. Let's say you're going to pay about $25,000 in wages for this project. They do everything for you. They're telling you what their platform fee is, what the workers' comp rate is going to be in Cali, which is 4.03%. Social security tax, all this stuff is done. Again, I don't know when you guys signed up for this if you thought I was going to be just strictly going into all the cool videos that we do for the celebrities and things like that, but this is important. You gotta have your workers' comp in place. So you're taking a huge risk because majority of the times the client wants you to have workers' comp. They may or may not provide the insurance, but you got to have workers' comp because if somebody gets injured, that's on you. You get sued. They're going to come after you. And it could be something as simple as an equipment or somebody tripping or anything can happen. So have that workers' comp, and Rapbook is what I would recommend. It's super easy to use. They're really friendly. They'll get on a call with you if you're the first time user, show you how to use this. So this is important because this is going to go in the bid. So if you don't break down, what you're spending on workers' comp, the agency is going to be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So another key thing before you send that bid out, when I send the bid out, it's attaching two main things, which is the treatment and the budget estimate, which is the bid. But you have to have an updated portfolio. If you have stuff that's outdated, you're probably not going to be able to compete with everybody else. And you saw my website. It's cool. It's fancy, but it's not easy to update. So thanks to Creatively, we have websites that allow us to easily update the latest work. And this is sort of built in like a social media already. So like I'm a new user to Creatively, but I'm gonna start using this to just easily update. Like there's so many glitches and things too you run into. So like uh I'm talking about for like your own website, you run into so many glitches that you don't want to deal with all that stuff, hosting and Vimeo and all this other stuff you got to connect. It's a lot. Like you should focus on just being creative, and Creatively makes that easy. And then you want to assemble your crew as well. They'll allow you to do that. Uh, and so it's like if you're in a certain area, you could find out where a cinematographer is, a makeup artist is, things like that, hairstylists. So you could start communicating with people and kind of get an idea of like, oh, maybe this is the cinematographer we want to use for the project. Now, the most important thing of all, let's say you won the bid. Now the real preparation starts, and it's called a pre-production deck. And my motto is fix it in prep, not fix it in post, fix it in prep. Because if you try to fix it in post, it's expensive. The client won't be happy. You're going to be probably doing stuff that was never in the original treatment. It doesn't even look like what you sold them on. And they're not going to come back because they're like, okay, well, this guy was not prepared. And in order to be prepared, this pre-production deck that you create before you roll out the project is super important. And the client, if it's the agency that you're dealing with directly, is usually going to have meetings once or twice a week as you keep updating the deck till the actual shoot date comes. And so I wrote down what a pre-production deck is. It's a presentation or a document that's used in a pre-production phase of the video project. It typically includes detailed information about the concept, story, characters, locations, and other elements of the video, as well as production schedule and budget. The pre-production deck is used to provide a clear overview of the project to the creative team and the other stakeholders to help ensure that everybody's on the same page about the direction and goals of the project. So again, you want to run this smoothly and efficiently, this is it. And I'm going to show you guys for a big chunk of this class what my pre-production decks usually look like. And this one is for the Snapple project we did a year ago. And so this was with ASAP Ferg. So a pre-production deck, you know, you've got your cover page, got your table of contents. It's like a book, you know, you're like writing a whole book almost. We usually break down the casting and talent on a few slides, really important part of the phase of the pre-production deck. I personally use backstage.com. It's a very easy website if you're not doing street casting, you know, like, don't worry, you won't see my password, but I'll show you an example. Backstage.com, you can pretty much, I will have to change that ASAP. Anyways, when you log in, you basically, it's taking some time to log in. Okay, I don't know why it's not logging in right now, but it's just loading. But anyways, with backstage.com, you can pretty much find talent and things like that. You guys can check it out on your own. It's a pretty cool page. See that? Like, it shows some of the stuff that we were casting for, all the different videos and projects. So you can go to the manager, and so that's a really, really helpful tool. Talent interviews. With talent interviews, that's part of the casting. I'm breaking down basically what day everybody's going to be interviewed. So we got bikers, we've got all these different cast of characters, and look how detailed I am about it. Like, I'm breaking down what they do, what their role is, exactly what time I plan on having them. My friend Renelle, she's going to show up from 12:30 to 1:30, and I give them a link to their website, previous interviews they've done, or sometimes you will shoot them on a iPhone or FaceTime and kind of do an interview ahead of time if you need to really convince the client that this person is going to be good on camera. So these are all the people that we sort of had in this project. Again, seems boring, but you got to break it down. All the people. And then within the pre-production deck, you have an updated treatment. One slide that kind of breaks down overall what the project is about. So this one's with ASAP Ferg. So it's like this is something that we directed together. Breaks down what the story goals are, what the film is, what the film is not. It's also like important to tell your client this is what it's not going to be as well, just to get it over with, right? Like you got to let them know this is not going to be some sort of edgy, overly stylized, heavy stuff. This is a fun, relatable, energetic, unscripted type of project. So you tell them your story goals, break down a act. You got to have the outline. I usually break them down in 3 acts, the 3-act structure. So you got your 3-act structure that you break down. Outro and like how we're going to show love to the brand, because sometimes you don't want to like be in like too much on the nose, in your face kind of way with selling the brand. The content itself should just keep it intriguing enough that you're sort of sold on the brand. Tone and narration. We even put the script on there of like the voiceovers. Branding, again, this goes into more detail of all the different ways we're going to brand it, in the crediting, in the product placement, how the title sequences are. Production elements. I'm going into detail about what my cinematography is going to be like, sound design, editing, what exact interview questions I'm going to ask everybody. All that is broken down. Again, this is the boring stuff, but if you don't do this stuff, you're not going to have a good shoot. Go into details about cinematography. I use Shot Deck. I don't know how many of you guys know about Shot Deck, but love this app. Love this software. It's like $10. You get an account here, you're going to be able to find a bunch of cool references for the type of shots you need, because you can't just like always Google image exactly what you need. This tool has been a lifesaver for me. So for example, going on Shot Deck, I found all these cool references for cinematography. And sometimes I'll pull from YouTube, take stills. But again, I use Shot Deck to get a reference from Do the Right Thing, Juice, some of my favorite 90s movies. I'm a 90s kid, so I love referencing 90s stuff. So that's how I break down the cinematography. Also breaking down the fact that we'll shoot some of the scenes in 8mm. Letting the client know what the overall color scheme is going to be, which for this project, Vibe, warm color palette, breaking down 2 different references of movies that I like. Going into product and art. Really, really important that you let them know how this product is going to be broken down. Again, I know this looks like a lot of like office work, but got to be prepared. The product list, this is breaking down where everything's going to be, if we got some of this stuff yet, posters that we're going to print out. So yeah, you got to put in this work. Like you got to go ahead to Office Max or somewhere like that's going to print this stuff for you, and you got to show the client this is what it's going to look like. So these posters we used in a bodega outside or inside the store to like kind of place it, for the commercial. Breaking down the locations. I use PeerSpace. Not sure how many of you guys know about PeerSpace, but this is a great website. PeerSpace is like Airbnb, but like for locations, for video shoots, events, everything. So I use PeerSpace. It is amazing. And you don't have to personally use it, like as far as like you as a director, but you could recommend your producer if they're not using it already to use PeerSpace, or you could recommend your location scout. Depending on the budget, some budgets you don't even have a location scout. On bigger budgets you do. So like your location scout's probably already using this, but if it's your production company, you can use it to actually book the actual location that you want to use. So then we also, in the pre-production deck, show photos of what the interior exterior looks like. That happens when you go to the actual location scout. So you're taking photos of each location, you're showing them what to expect. For this one, I even have a macro shot because I wanted to be as detailed as like, hey, this is what it's going to look like when I use their kitchen. So breaking down all the B-roll of all the locations. Shot list and shoot schedule. I don't use Studio Binder, but I just discovered it and checked out their back end. It's pretty cool. But Studio Binder will help you with shot lists. Here is an example of a storyboard that I did. We hired out a storyboard artist for this project for this sunglass company called Gentle Monster. So it broke down, and nowadays, like, you don't have to be that detailed with your shot list, or not your shot list, but your storyboard. You can use actual images as well as references, and some things, you can draw out. There's better technology now that's out that you may just be able to just get your storyboard images done using AI. We'll go into that much later. But for example, if you're looking at this shot list, there are scenes that you'll see that are very similar to what I've done. So right here, like the robot thing and the garden that you're looking at, if you're on this is studio. So for example, that shot list is going to show you this example is like a idea of the shot list and what it ended up with.
They are at the forefront of space.
Even more specifically, this garden one that you saw on the storyboard matches pretty much like the shot list we were working on. So this is for a sunglass company, and that is the shot list, as you can see. And there are other tools we'll go over that can help you with that. Breaking down the schedule with the shot list. Those go hand in hand because you have to know what you're capable of shooting, like how much time you have. And again, I don't know if everybody does this, but this is how detailed I am. I'm very, very specific about how long I have with each person, especially in a documentary, if you're like shooting in 3 days. So that's how detailed my breakdown is. You'll see I'm breaking down the kind of lens I'm using, when to use a 18 millimeter, what shots are 48 frames per second, what shots are 60 frames per second, what's 24. Very, very detailed. And then call sheet, that is for me like the most important thing, obviously, to make sure everybody's showing up. I don't know if I can pull this one up. Oh, maybe it's not pulling up, but the call sheet, I could, if you guys email me, I'll send you examples and templates that I have. Post schedule, super important. Make sure you follow those exact deadlines. I give them a graphics treatment, meaning this is how I imagine the graphics may show up in the presentation. Again, this is still part of the pre-production deck. It's that detailed, breaking down every little thing, how I imagine everything, and then the deliverables. And after the deliverables, you've shot the thing. I use Frame.io to upload my videos. Let me log into my Frame.io just to show you guys how it works. So here, all the different projects we have, going on recently with Google and Facebook and all this stuff. And so this, you send to your client. It's the easiest way to get feedback. You'll get all these comments on the side of what they think needs to be done to fix this stuff. So if you're not the editor, you should still have Frame.io because, like I said, like if you're the director and you're not editing your own thing, you're still gonna want to like put all your feedback in there. So I use Frame.io. Adobe just purchased them as well, and they've got really cool features. Then you need to put music out there. You could go to your friends that are musicians to license it from them. You can go to an expensive company. But honestly, I used this company recently, artlist.io, because their licensing is pretty clear. because it could get really difficult when you're talking licensing, and you don't want to get hit with a lawsuit because you thought you had the license to this project, and really it was supposed to be for like a personal project, and you're not allowed to use it on a commercial. And so, with content ID, people could track you down. Like, yeah, you didn't mean any harm by purchasing it, but if you don't read the fine line what the licensing agreement is, you got to be careful with that. With Artlist, it's really, really easy. So thank you guys for listening in. I'm ready to take on questions. And yeah, that is my presentation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Shomi. That was wonderful. Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle from Creatively chiming in to help get your questions answered. I love the chat going so heavily. That was great. There was a lot of conversation around your massive informativeness, if that's a word. But let's jump into some of these questions. Let's start out with a few simple ones. What programs do you use to make animated images, or do you pull them from somewhere?
So there are two ways that I do it. Sometimes if you go to Giphy and all these sites, they may have references to stuff that you already like that you want to drop in. I personally, I'll get a video off of YouTube, download it. You got to use, secondary plugins and stuff. I'll download the video, then I'll take it into Adobe Premiere. I'll find the in and out points of what I like, and then you can export as an animated GIF. I may do like a more of a tutorial later on, but yeah, I use Adobe Premiere to export the animated GIF, and I keep them short, but they're fun to watch, in a presentation. You don't want to read all this stuff when you're trying to explain this stuff to the client. Depends on the client. Sometimes they don't even read it. They just want to look at the visuals. So I use Premiere Pro.
Cool. That's a great lead into this next question. What is your top video editing software?
Adobe Premiere Pro.
Figured that was the same answer.
It's got its issues, but I started out on Premiere Pro since I was a kid. Like, I started editing in 2005, maybe. And it wasn't my first editing tool. Like, everybody starts out with like the iMovies and things like that, but Premiere is what I stuck with. There was a time when I went to switch over once all I used were Macs to Final Cut. Final Cut 7 had a very similar system to Premiere Pro, but then when Premiere started really improving everything, I went back to it, and I couldn't get adjusted to the new Final Cut X. Just the interface was too complicated for me. Not complicated. I just the old Final Cut was very similar to Premiere Pro, so I just went back to Premiere Pro.
Look, stick with what you know, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, as they say. One question, what's the biggest technical challenge you've ever faced, and how did you overcome it?
Technical challenge. Oh, yeah. There's so many different type of technical challenges. One technical challenge could be, even when you're doing a commercial shoot, sometimes they want that like look of like DIY feel. So like, or sometimes in that schedule, there's an event you have to attend as part of the whole story that you're telling. And so one of the technical challenges that I found is like, okay, well, we can't sneak in a whole crew. Like, how do we pull this off? Like, even more recently, we did a Square shoot. Square, who owns Cash App and all those other brands. We did a Square shoot, and we couldn't bring in all this equipment. There were two crews. We were doing one project, and they were doing one project. So we just took a much smaller camera, A7 with a very small gimbal, and shot it. And honestly, because of the way this event was set up, I personally didn't think there was a big difference between the crew that took in the big cameras and what we had, because at the end of the day, you couldn't light for the scene anyways. So lighting could become a challenge sometimes, and so like there are ways around it, like it's honestly better to go small when you're dealing with like difficult places to shoot in. You don't always have to have the big fancy cameras for everything. Sometimes it looks cool that you're using a GoPro or like a 360 camera for certain shots. Like, people like that look, especially with like now everybody's so used to like all the social media campaigns that come out. People love something that feels like authentic and user generated.
Yeah, people want the real,
Yeah. Well, I'm not even joking. Like, we'll do a $200,000 project, and we'll sneak in a GoPro shot, or like an A7, which is the Sony A7, which is not quite a RE Alexa, but it gets the job done. even when I did the project with Belly in the Weekend, I used the A7 for the beginning shots for a rig we call a snorri cam, which connects to your chest, and you get this weird, like crazy perspective. But we didn't expect the artist to put a heavy camera on his thing. But like, yeah, like you run into challenges with the size of the camera. You can't bring it in everywhere. So I could go on forever about cameras, but yeah, the size of the camera doesn't matter, you know.
I love it. Somebody just dropped in the chat really quick. Any tips on working with celebrity talent? But also with that question, I'm going to ask one of the questions that's in the Q&A is, have you worked with your dream client yet? So any tips on working with celebrity clients? Have you worked with your dream client?
So obviously Beyonce being one of them, that was a dream client to work with. Jay-Z is a dream client. I haven't worked with him. Came close because he was going to come to the Belly and Weekend video shoot. But, you know, it's going to sound cheesy when I say this, but this already feels like a dream that I'm working in this business. But the way I got started was these people were my buddies, you know, like Ferg and Rocky were homies before they were big. We did small video shoots, small cameras, and to other people, that's their dream client. And I'm lucky. A lot of the times I start out with these people, they're just friends. So same thing with Diplo. You know, when we went to Diplo initially to New Orleans, we literally lit a video with the iPhone and a 7D camera, a very small camera that Pusha T had purchased for me. And you know, Diplo to a lot of people became their dream client, but this is a homie. So like my way of starting out in this business was I got to work with people that I kind of saw, oh, this guy's got a lot of potential, he's gonna blow up. That's always been my secret to success as far as like getting the big clients and having the dream client. The dream client could be somebody that you could be creating the next dream client. You could help create the next dream client, if that makes any sense.
I love that. Yes, it makes perfect sense. You can help create the next dream client. That's a quotable right there. Any advice for novice people, high school students, you know, intern level, that type of thing?
Yeah. Biggest advice I give is it's always a budget constraint thing, right? When you're talking about production, you find yourself, I don't have the funds to do it. But honestly, like when I started out, this is going to age me a little bit because I started out in 2002. Back in my days, we had handy cams, right? The home video cameras, like from Best Buys. That's how I got started. I just couldn't believe that we were filming Pharrell behind the scenes in a studio, working with, you know, Pusha T and Malice and all these guys. But, you know, if you just start out with the small camera, it's not a big deal. Sometimes, honestly, the smaller cameras, less intrusive, it's not in their way. So like, don't worry about having the big camera immediately. Like start out with anything. And an iPhone is an incredible tool now. So like if you got the iPhone, like it's got cinematic mode, like it looks pretty good. It's way better than what I started out with. And now it's kind of like cool to like shoot on VHS tape, you know, like people want to like combine VHS footage and 8mm footage and all this stuff on $1 million campaigns. Like we've done campaigns and I'm just like laughing that, you know, like, oh man, we're using iPhone footage in this too, because like, this is just what feels right. So to go back to that, yeah, like the tools don't matter. It's what your imagination is, you know, and a lot of you all are probably students of YouTube, and I'm telling you, it's the best way. I personally couldn't go to film school because my parents were very traditional. So I just worked with the tools we had. I interned. That's the other thing, the internship and mentorship, finding the proper mentors, finding people that believe in you early. That's another thing for beginners. Again, like I said, like finding those collaborators that end up being big. That's how you really kind of create your brand as well. Because, you know, I had a second resurgence in my career when I met Rocky and Ferg, and they had respect for me because I came out of the Star Trek camp, which is Pharrell's label. But Rocky and Ferg, they were young, hungry, and we were able to just run around anywhere and shoot with our cameras and do wild stuff. But they became, you know, household names, and that's something a beginner needs to know. Like you'll create your style with the collaborators that you find. So people will come back to you for that style. I remember I shot a video for Mark Ronson, and by the time we were done with it, it was like almost $200,000 budget. And he's like, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wanted you to make it less glossy because I picked you because you did this run and gun stuff. So yeah.
Love it. Let's go into the next question. This is a good one. How did you pivot from music videos? I mean, technically you still do some of these things too, but how did you pivot between music videos and commercial work? What made you, make that move? Was it a guttural feeling? Was it a business decision? What was it?
Business and for my sanity, because musicians, like all creatives, are out there and some are professional, some are not, but it'll drive you crazy because as you get older, like it's much, much harder to keep doing the same thing over and over again and just grinding away, like no sleep. You sacrifice so much, but it's a great stepping stone. So the way I made the leap into music videos to commercial is honestly doing more documentary work. And so, and most commercial work, like the word commercial, people get it confused. Commercial isn't just like your typical 60-second, 30-second spot that you see. Commercial work nowadays is a big chunk of it is branded content, which is documentary work. So when I started just doing my own documentary work, honestly, like, if you're not getting that chance, just create a spec commercial. I even like created specs off of music videos. Like, let's say you did a music video and you decided to rent a BMW or something. Take that opportunity and like use the additional footage that you didn't use in the actual music video, and you could turn it into a spec commercial. And maybe on a local level, you go to a local dealership and hit them up. Who knows, there's so many ways around it, but the transitioning happened to me one day. I was just like, all right, I got to figure out how I'm going to get a commercial. And sometimes with the commercial gig, because commercial gigs are the ones that are supposed to pay you the most, but sometimes you do some of them because not because of the budget, but because you're like, all right, even if this is a brand I don't like completely align with, I'm not talking about on a political end, I'm talking about like, this might be a product I don't use. Just step away from that and just try to be super creative with, taking that opportunity. But, like you can start locally, like your cousin's got a restaurant, go shoot a cool thing for him. You'll be doing him a favor and helping him out. And somebody may see that commercial and it gets bigger and bigger. Like really things just get bigger, And so for me, like my first real like foray into commercials was like documentary type work. When I went to the Fader for a little bit, we did something with Casio and all these different brands. When I was at Karmaloop, I didn't realize we were kind of creating commercials at Karmaloop, but for those of you who don't know, Karmaloop is used to be an online retailer. They used to be a retail giant back in the days. And when I moved to New York, I worked for Karmaloop, and we used to work with all these brands, and we'd tell the brands, hey, we'll just come in and shoot cool spots for you guys, like just to have content. So you kind of got to create your own lane and your own work. That's how it works for me. Like I just have to like go out and make it. Nobody's going to just be like, hey, I want to hire you for this. Like you really just have to be aggressive about showing and proving.
Is another great question that has a lot to do with exactly what you were just talking about and everything that you presented. Is there ever a possibility of an agency selecting a treatment and then having a completely different director follow it? How can you protect yourself?
Oh, I'm a victim of that. I'm not going to tell you what brand did this to me, but happened a few times. You can't protect yourself. You really can't. You know why you really can't protect yourself? Because you still want to work with that client in the future. And I won't name any names, but one of these clients I ended up working with, I just shut my mouth. I said, okay, I know that reference is way too specific. And maybe sometimes like they don't even, I don't think sometimes it's intentional even on their end. It could be like subliminal, like you spoke of it. They don't remember. Remember, they got pitched like 10 different directors right before they picked you. So sometimes it's not intentional. They might have been influenced, and it might have been, in their subconscious somehow. And that's how the work got borrowed. The idea got borrowed, but you really can't protect yourself. I know that sounds grim. I say you can't protect yourself because if you speak out, like that agency works with 50 other clients, So it's just the way that things are, I mean, I've spoken out before if it's a music video client. I've had that happen. But if it's a commercial, I'm going to just step away and just chill out.
I love how you said the word got borrowed. Quote. No, they took it, but it's okay. You've already gone bigger and better. So next question, how do you navigate personal style and artistic integrity with commercial needs and industry trends? Do you ever have to sacrifice your artistic direction, or is it worth the money in the end?
Uh,
Oh, and the end of this
Commercial.
question, sorry, it's
Yeah.
also what's on the wrist?
Oh, this is the Rolex that I got myself. Well, my wife got me. Submariner, but that comes with doing commercials. um, but I'm a watch guy. I don't like to flex, but like I love watches. Since I was a kid, I loved watches. Going back to the commercial stuff. What were we talking about again? Sorry, I got distracted.
It's all about your personal style, so it kind of fits in.
Oh, personal
Mixing
style.
your
Yeah,
personal
yeah.
style and artistic integrity versus
Ah,
commercial
got it, got it.
needs.
So look, the reason the client came to you is because they like a certain style that they think you're good for. You know, some people are great with just shooting on film and they're like, oh, this guy's got a unique look. Some people shoot on certain mediums. Some people have a certain unique aesthetic they've created. My personal aesthetic, I'm a 90s kid. So like it's very 90s influenced, you know, what I grew up on watching Hype Williams music videos, things like that, that influenced me. So like I used to love using fisheye, all that stuff. But you know, at the end of the day, a commercial job is a job, and I'm going to admit my mistakes and flaws. There was a time where a client was like, hey, we want it this way. And I was like, no, I want it this way. They never came back. So humble yourself. Like, dude, you're getting hired. It's their vision at the end of the day. Don't drop the bag because of the ego. It's not worth it. It's a commercial. At the end of the day, it's some pre-roll somebody's skipping through. Or if you're making something really dope, there's a director's cut. So like I think almost like half of my projects are director's cut. Like what you might see on my website is like a forever director's cut. Like usually one of my secrets that I don't like sharing, but I'll share it now is like the project comes out and I'm like, oh, this was rushed. I wish I had more time to do this. I'll go back and like tweak it. And then months later, I'm like, I'll tweak it again and I'll just replace the file. So at least when you're going on my website to hire me, my director's cut is always there. So like you don't have to like always, you know, look at it in a way like your ideas got sacrificed. That's what a director's cut is for. You keep it to yourself, and that's the one you show to the clients.
Amazing. Rolling into our last few questions, a lot of people have asked about you hiring your crew and any pointers on how you found work before you had your own company. But a specific crew question that I saw is about AB5 California. Do you know about that? I don't know. It says, how do you work around AB5 California as far as crewing up in California or New York?
Oh, I think we're talking about like union rules and things like that.
Yes.
You know, it goes both ways. We've done union shoots, we've done non-union shoots. And when I was at Deez's and Miro, um, union shoots is when I know it's gonna be something like that's when I take my production hat off. I'm not qualified. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not qualified on union shoots to shoot those on my own. I hire a company that is compliant with all the rules. I'm a DGA director, so like, you know, when I'm doing a union, I have to do, you know, union shoots these days anyways, but we end up going to different companies that are much better at it, have a much better system. So yeah, if you're doing like shoots with all the compliances and stuff, and again, I might be answering the question wrong, but I'm assuming that's a union question. Or maybe I don't know what that code is yet. There's so many new laws coming out, so I could be answering this completely wrong. So, but yeah, it's tricky. It's always a tricky thing, like hiring people. Me now, like as far as like what I do, like my crew is my family. Like these people spend the night at my house if we need to like really brainstorm and chill. Like
Yeah,
I kind
someone
of create
asked actually, how many people do you have on your crew right now, too?
So we have like nobody is on salary. We kind of like I pay myself a salary, my wife a salary for you know, just how taxes work and payrolls work. But everybody else is freelance, but they are my go-to guys, you know. We have new directors, producers. that we work with. We have collaborators. My friend Eleanor, she's a great executive producer, and she brings a lot of cool gigs. I've got young directors that I'm mentoring as well that are part of the crew, Mikey and Davey. They have a company, Mad Street Films, that we're repping right now. So we're actually expanding. We're looking to rep more directors on the website. So like we're just expanding. But right now I think about like 8 people that we just always stick with as like the home team.
Awesome. We can wrap up with the second part to the question I asked before, where we were asking if there's any particular pointers about how you found work before you had your own company, or any general advice for finding video production work and, the
Yeah.
opportunity to get on crews.
Apps, like, creatively. Not to sound corny, but like, yeah, I mean, that's what social media is for. That's how I still find work through social media. Like, just you gotta like build a connection. It's got to be a natural connection. I don't like expect me linking up with somebody. We have lunch or something, and the next day they're writing a check or we're working on something cool. It doesn't work that way. Really, I would prefer to work with somebody that I get to know better. So building a relationship is really important. There are cool events, concerts, and things like that. If you get backstage, if you're volunteering to like shoot BTS, I started out as a BTS guy. Like I was doing BTS for Pusha T. I was doing BTS for Family, who was one of Pharrell's artists. I was doing BTS for Pharrell on certain projects. So like, you start out small. You start out with BTS. Like that's how I did it. Just shooting behind the scenes, being a fly on the wall. I would go to these bigger video shoots with bigger budgets and just like observe everything. And if you're doing behind the scenes, you got that opportunity to film how it's done. So you kind of reverse engineering what you watch. That's what I did. In the beginning, before I started a production company, I would hire out another production company. I would reverse engineer everything I saw them do. So I'd look at a call sheet. I'm like, oh, this is all the people I need. Great. The call sheet is like the Bible when it comes to these shoots. It tells you everybody you need to hire, from the rental location to the catering company to everything. Like that's a great way to,
And then when you're done with the shoot, you use your call sheet to tag everyone as collaborators on your creatively projects.
There you go. There you go.
So
Everybody
thank you so much. Yeah, this was so fire, Shomi. This was great. We have a lot of questions that are left over, but we only have so much time, you guys. So I would say feel free to DM Shomi on Creatively if you have any direct questions that you think he may be able to answer for you. But this was wonderful, and we're going to wrap it up. And feel free, again, follow Shomi on Creatively on IG and try to connect with him as much as you possibly can to learn a little bit more. And this will be up on our YouTube channel very soon.
Oh, make sure to like cut out that part where you see my password.
Oh yeah, and make sure you change it too.
Right now. It's not a big deal. It's just a casting thing. It's not a big deal. All right, y'all. Later.
Bye, everyone.